this is Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades in Justice podcast. Hey, we're so excited you decided to stop by. Hey, you can catch us every Wednesday evening, 8:30 Central Standard Time or 9:30 Eastern Time. We want to see you right here at Positive Power Christian Radio. Again, this is Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades in Justice podcast, a chance where you can hear about justice and injustices here in our country. Again, Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades in Justice podcast. Hello to our radio audience on tonight. Hey, this is Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades and Justice podcast, and we are super excited to be here on this evening. We have some wonderful guests. These are more authors from the Voices of Women Unleashed in Justice. And again, I always love to say that I applaud the courage and the resilience that these women have displayed by sharing their stories. And this is a pretty neat group that we have on tonight. 3 ladies who reside in Minnesota, and I'll introduce each one of them by name, and then I'll let them come on and just share a little bit about themselves. First, I want to welcome Debra Leigh, Njeri Clement, and Flo. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I am super excited that you have joined us on tonight. I'm just going to start with Debra Leigh. Debra, first of all, just tell us a little bit about your self. Where did you grow up? Where are you now? And then we'll ask the other 2 guests the same question.
Well, Dr. Hill, I come from Kansas City, Missouri. I was born and raised there, but I have lived in St. Cloud, Minnesota for the past 36 years.
Wow.
And, yeah, that's quite some time.
Well, that's exciting, Miss Leigh. And what made you leave Kansas City? What was there anything in particular that sparked your interest at St. Cloud?
Yes, I was a professor of dance at the University of Kansas City at the time, and I got a job offer from St. Cloud State University to come and direct a dance program there. And I decided I was going to take the plunge. I packed up my car and my baby, and we moved north to St. Cloud, Minnesota, and I've been here ever since. I accepted that position in dance as director of dance. I did that for the first 15 years of my career at St. Cloud State, and then I went into doing anti-racism organizing for the university, for the system, and for the community in St. Cloud. And about 4 years ago, I accepted a position at St. Cloud Technical and Community College as Vice President of Cultural Fluency, Equity, and Inclusion.
Well, thank you, Miss Leigh. Wow, that's an exciting journey that you have been on, and you moved a long ways away from where you started. Miss Njeri Clement, welcome. How are you this evening? And tell us a little bit about you.
I'm doing well, Dr. Hill. Thank you for having me here.
Sure.
I was born and raised in Kenya, and I currently live in St. Cloud, Minnesota. I have been living in St. Cloud for 18 years now, and Yeah, and I was invited by St. Cloud State University as a guest speaker during Women's History Month to come and talk about my work with grassroots organizing and especially in the rural area. So I did a lot of work with rural women and women empowerment and leadership. And so that is how I landed in St. Cloud. I am the Director of Cultural Fluency, Equity and Inclusion at St. Cloud Technical and Community College. I am also a Gender and Human Rights Consultant and a scholar who is deeply committed to advancing gender leadership, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I am passionate about gender issues, women empowerment, women leadership, and so forth. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Wow, what a powerful piece that you have discussed on this evening. Wow, you've done some incredible work, and certainly appreciate your passion and your tenacity to continue that work. And Miss Flo, I didn't want to destroy your name. Please share your your name, your correct name. I love Flo because it's easy, but please share your correct name and then a little bit about where you come from.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hill, for this opportunity. I'm so grateful to be on this call. My name is Warugoro Wahome Nyoike, and I was born and raised in Kenya, in the slopes of Mount Kenya. That's where I come from. That's where my parents come from. And I'm a daughter, I'm an aunt, I'm a cousin, I'm a mother, wife-in-law, advocate, and social worker. And from there, like when I came to Minneapolis, I've been in Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, for over 22 years. I came as a student, and I've worked my way around to be able to live here and continue on with life. So I'm forever grateful for this opportunity where when my line of work has been pretty much like working with victims of domestic violence, people experiencing homelessness, both adults and families. And now even my work has also touched on like working with pregnant teens, but it's in the aspect of making sure that they go back to school once they have their baby and they are able to complete at least the high school diploma, if not the GED.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. And wow, you are from Kenya and Njeri is from Ghana. And I think Debra said she was from the Kansas City area. So you all have taken a real leap of faith in life, just moving from one place to another. So I'm glad you all are in my life at this season. I want to share this scripture really, really quick, and then we'll move into the title of your chapter and why you decided on that chapter and why you decided to be a part of this anthology. Here's a scripture I wanted to share. It's Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 8, which I love this scripture, and it goes directly, these two scriptures, 8 and 9, it goes directly into what I consider that you all have done in raising your voices. It says, open your mouth for the dumb in the cause of all such as are appointed to destruction. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and the needy. And so I appreciate you all so much for sharing your stories and for being a part of this anthology. And again, it takes courage to share some of the things that you have shared and the other ladies have shared. And we want the whole world to know about these voices that have come alive in this book. So, Debra Leigh, we'll start with you. The title of your chapter and why you chose to be a part of this anthology.
Well, The title of my chapter is A Journey of Discovery, African Culture Through Dance and Self-Education. When I was asked to become part of this anthology, I didn't hesitate to say yes. I think I may have been one of the first persons that said yes even. And I realized in the asking and in the agreeing to participate that I have a lot to say, that I haven't had the opportunity to really say to anyone or share with anyone. Just a lot of stories about my journey. And so that was my motivation. And this is only one topic that we've written about. But as I started writing and listening and reading all of the other stories, I kind of came to the conclusion, man, I could have wrote a whole book on this. If I just take all of those stories that are still in my head that I want to get out and I want to share with other women especially, and write them down. So I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to participate. It was a wonderful way for me to begin to think about what else is it that I need to talk about and actually write down.
Well, thank you, Debra. And to tell you the truth, I felt exactly the same way. I felt like the story that I wrote about was the least of all, because everybody else's stories were so powerful and impactful and really garnered all kinds of emotions as I read through them. So thank you. And I agree, man. You realize there's all kinds of stories within us. Each of us has our own log of stories that we have not shared, but this was the beginning. And so thank you for sharing your chapter. And Miss Njeri, what about your chapter? Why did you choose to be a part of this anthology, and what was the title of your chapter?
Yeah, the title of my chapter is African Women Leaders, Ethical Dilemmas Explored Through Winnie Mandela's Lived Experiences. And I wanted to be part of this anthology first to recognize and the leadership and the legacy of the African women leaders who have come before me, including my great-grandmother, and I will mention their names. My great-grandmother, her name was Mwihaki. My grandmothers, Wamboi, my paternal grandmother, Njeri, who I'm named for, and my mother, Mombi. Secondly, I wanted to, through this anthology, create a platform for other women leaders to learn how to navigate their everyday struggles and how to become effective leaders in spite of societal perceptions, especially for women who are not really welcomed in those leadership spaces. So I wanted to give that platform by shining a light on the lived experiences of Winnie Mandela, who was an advocate and a transformational leader, not only for the continent of Africa, not only for the country of South Africa, but for the world at large. So I wanted to create that platform that even when we experience challenges and struggles, we can still be effective and transformational leaders as women.
Wow. That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's something to be a leader, but it's something else to be a transformational leader. So thank you for sharing that, and we'll come back and talk about that in just another few minutes. Miss Flo, we are excited to hear from you. What was the name of your chapter, and why did you decide to join this anthology?
Certainly. Thank you so much. My chapter is Chapter 5, which talks about health, our health, women's health. And I got to know about this anthology through Njeri Clement. Njeri Clement posted the link and said whoever wanted to be a part of this, they're more than welcome to join. So I jumped on it because I love and enjoy writing, but had never written a book, had never been in a book. So that was something I put in my to-do list, actually in my jar. You know how you put things in your jar as an inspiration? You want to be an author or co-author in the future? So that was a prayer answered. Why I talked about health. I mean, all of us at some point, we have gone through, calamities, or we have gone through other things that where we are like, what just happened? What did they just tell me? What did they suggest? And I want to resolve this in reflection to my own parents, my own health journey, and how we can always be our best advocates. Advocacy goes a long way. But then when we talk about advocacy, what does that look like, for health? Feeling like, okay, should I speak up? Should I not when they're prescribing this medication? Or should I just say, I have had allergic reactions when this has happened? But then I wanted to share because I know there's power in storytelling. And storytelling never grows old. So unless I share my experience and my story for it to ignite another mother, another woman, another girl, another human being, individual, whether male or female, then they know they are on track, that it's okay to ask the question. It's okay to mistrust the system, but how do you hold yourself accountable? Because fear is a valid emotion. Every one of us goes through it in life. Doesn't matter what the situation is, whether it's an interview for a new job or even going to the doctor and some lab work was done and you're awaiting the results. So my aspect by writing health, even like I did hear about Debra say, I was reading everybody else's story and I felt mine was the least of it all because I was like, everybody's story was so touchy. Oh, I should have written about this. I could have written the whole book. But then I remember when Dr. Hill kept saying, you're just writing a chapter, 2,000 words. So it was an experience. It was something that opened in my heart and said, you do write yours too in the future. So there's one in the works. This was an opening for me to share the untold stories.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for sharing your chapter and why you decided to get in the anthology. And it was such an experience, even for me, because as I was trying to recruit individuals to be a part of the anthology, some would come on and then it was like they changed their mind or they just didn't respond at all. And so I didn't know. It was just a totally different experience for me. But when the stories began to come in, and I read one after another, and each story was so extremely different from the other stories, I said, wow, we have created something here. This is something different. This is around the areas of justice in health, justice in leadership, justice on campuses. I mean, this was incredible. So again, I want to thank you ladies for the courage it took and the painstaking time it took to actually sit down, stop your busy schedule, and sit down and pen your chapter. And it's absolutely, I want to use the word Njeri used, it's been transformative. I've had several people come to me and say, wow, this is different. This is not anything we've read before. So thank you for that. Now, I want to take some time and allow you to just highlight one piece of your chapter that you really are glad you included in the chapter for other women or whoever to read. You all three of you said a little something about your chapter. Is there one part of your chapter more than the others that you're really, really glad you had a chance to share that you feel would be extremely impactful to the reader? Miss Debra Leigh.
Yeah. So my Bible verse that I started my chapter with came from Proverbs 4, verse 7, that talks about the beginning of wisdom is this. Mm-hmm. And then it says, get wisdom. Get it. So one of the things that I talked about in my chapter was meeting Sister Crispina. And Sister Crispina came from Zanzibar in Tanzania. She was the headmaster of the school, and her coming to school at St. Cloud State University was her first trip to the United States. And she had sent me an application for a job, which I decided I was going to hire her, and I let her know when she arrived she would have a job here. And then she sent me an email saying that she was going to apply for her visa on the same day that she was to travel. And it was really tricky because if it was denied, she wouldn't be able to come at all. So she asked me to pray for her. And so I wrote her back a prayer about the visa, but a much bigger prayer about the travel itself, about the journey once she was here, about the way God could bless her and ask him to bless her when she arrived in terms of her studies and her learning and the development and the relationships and all of that. Anyway, 2 days later, she called me and said she was here. And I said, wonderful, come and see me, come and see me tomorrow morning. And we made an appointment. And she came to see me, and she came to my door. She was dressed in her nun's habit, so I knew it was her. And she stopped dead in her tracks. And she said, oh, my God, are you Professor Leigh? And I said, yes. Are you Crispina Leigh? And she said, I never in my wildest dreams imagined that you would be a Black woman, a Black professor. And she said, you sent me the most beautiful prayer. And I just never imagined that had come from a Black woman. And she came and gave me the biggest hug ever. And we just bonded almost immediately. So my chapter is all about my own journey, trying to understand more about my African heritage. Who am I as an African American woman? What is that African part of my heritage that I didn't learn at home and I didn't learn in school and I didn't learn until I started studying African dance? And I just wanted to know more. I wanted to learn more. And when Crispina came and my meeting with her, we spent just hours and hours and hours just talking about family and friends and religion and politics and foods and holidays and customs and clothing and shoes and just everything about life. And she taught me so much about African heritage that I was then able to share with others. And so that's the part of my chapter. That's a little nugget in my chapter. For me, that's the most important part.
Wow, that is powerful. And I remember meeting Sister Crispina, and she had a chance to come to my house, so we loved her. And then we went to Africa to visit her and would love to go again, but oh my goodness. So thank you for sharing that, Debra. Miss Njeri, what part in your chapter would you like to highlight?
Yeah, I think I have, when you ask that question, I have kind of four things that have popped into my head. And I started my chapter with an African proverb from the country of Ethiopia. And I also started my chapter with a folk tale that my grandmother would narrate to me late in the evening when we are seated by the fire, and I would be looking at the stars, in the night. And in hindsight, I now see that what my grandmother was instilling were skills, leadership skills, because out of those folk tales, there were lessons behind the stories that she would tell. And so I want to highlight the value of cultural epithets or those stories. I want to highlight the importance of indigenous ways of knowing and that intergenerational knowledge that we can use as leaders to inform our leadership practices or how we do leadership. And then I also want to highlight the significance of family connection. And then knowing that even when we experience challenges and, uncertain times or, those moral dilemmas or ethical dilemmas as women, that it will require that we choose or make decisions that align with our core values and our core principles, while still considering the impact that those decisions that we make have on others. And then I want to, kind of send a word to all women around the world that they are needed and that we need them. We need our mothers. We need women. We need their unyielding self, to be able to keep hope alive, especially during these uncertain times that we are in today. And so it's all about ensuring that women's leadership growth is not hindered by fear or hindered by neglect or I'm not good enough, but rather it is fueled by growth, by innovation. I was reading a book, 2030, and it's looking at the trends in 2030. And it's saying that over 50% of wealth globally by 2030 will belong to women. So that tells me that, woman in rural South America, that woman in rural Asia, in rural Africa will have some form of income coming in, a business or something like that. And that, to me, that is leadership. So leadership doesn't have to be formal. What women do every day, that is leadership. And so I want to create that consciousness that women are doing leadership every day and that we should go back to our indigenous ways of knowing to inform that leadership. Even those of us who are in quote unquote formal spaces, in higher leadership positions, that we should go back to that indigenous ways of knowing.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Njeri. Woo, that is some powerful stuff. Yes, absolutely. And Miss Flo, is there a part of your chapter that you would like to highlight? You mentioned a little bit earlier about being able to advocate for your own health. And is there another piece you'd like to share in your chapter with our radio audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Advocacy goes a long way. Definitely that one is an area that I feel like needs to continue be restated, re-mentioned, and people also to be coached on how they can be better advocates for themselves. It's not that they are not, but how do we become better in what we do for ourselves, because it starts with ourselves before we're able to pour out to anybody else. The verse that I chose, which was, to whom much is given, much is expected. Luke 12:48. Why I chose that verse is because I came to the United States right after high school. So pretty much I was, I would say the young adult then, but then the young adult with naiveness, because taking a Greyhound bus I came to Canada and then took a Greyhound bus from Canada, BC, British Columbia to Minneapolis. And now what I know now, I don't think I would take the Greyhound bus, thinking like what else has happened. I mean, the many things that we see, the stories we read, Lifetime and movies and everything like that. But then also coming here, like as a young person, and then also learning the system. My naiveness is seen in the book when I talk about copays and deductibles. Many of us don't want to show vulnerability But I put it out there and said, I got to know about it during a staff meeting. That is okay to say. There are things that we are going to learn out there. And if they really served you, share with others, because our learning is ongoing and our learning is everywhere based on what we open up to, or how we feel, how we see it, and how we, internalize it. So that much of me, knowing, I can also be my own best advocate, is knowing who pays the co-pays. I didn't know what they were co-pays. They're called co-pays. And then the deductibles. What does it mean when you're told you have not met the threshold of your deductibles? Does that mean make up some more appointments so that it can be seen, so that the deductibles can be reached for the year? Things like those. So portraying that naiveness and also vulnerability. All of us are vulnerable when we choose to do that. But then again, it's what spaces. So I chose to share that, even by saying, as much as my own parents have been affected by health in different ways. I mean, even if my mom, it was something to do with health that led to her death. It is more like showing that what can you do for yourself? Because if we are not full psychologically, physically, and mentally, for sure it is going to show gaps in anywhere else. I can't say I'm fine, I'm okay when I'm really struggling with my mental health. I can't say I'm fine when I feel my spiritual is attacked. So it is that when you gain that peace with yourself, because you have to give yourself permission, and also you have to give yourself grace to feel like, yes, I'm ready to be vulnerable. I don't care what people say. But then again, what are they going to take away from this? Because these are the untold stories. But also, if you look at it, it's the power of storytelling, of how you can also rewrite and retell your story over and over.
Oh, that's excellent. I love the part about advocating for yourself, becoming vulnerable, ask the questions. A lot of times you do feel kind of uneasy asking questions about your health to a doctor or a nurse, because it may appear like they know it, but I don't know it. So, and what does that word mean? And how does that affect my body or my mind? So thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned it had a lot to do with your mother's death, and your mother's condition, and how you ended up being an advocate for your mother. So thank you for that. Ladies, we are getting close to the end of our time together on tonight. This has been wonderful, but before we go, I just want you all to know you shocked me. You all came to Kansas City for our Heart book launch. I mean, you showed up. Flo came in with a van and her whole family, and I tell you, you ladies blessed me. So what was your takeaway from that Heart launch? We had a evening together, and then we spent Saturday through a good chunk of the day together. What was your takeaway from that, or just share any piece of that? And then when you get done with that piece, I want you to share about your upcoming launch. Okay, Miss Lee, you want to kick us off?
Wow, Evelyn, coming to Kansas City to that red carpet book launch was absolutely amazing. It was joyful. It was exciting. It was emotional. There were so many heartfelt stories from all of the writers that were there. I've never been invited to a red carpet book launch event before, and it was truly an honor to participate. And I just remember leaving feeling so proud of all of us, just so proud of all of us, and so proud of our courage to come out and step up and tell our stories and share our stories. So that was my experience.
Well, you ladies are absolutely incredible. I'm still just in my mind thinking about how special you all are in our communities, but how special you made that event and how special you made me feel. Miss Njeri, do you have any input about that weekend?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it was just truly empowering. I mean, it was not just a celebration of the book, but a celebration of collective voices, of women from diverse backgrounds. I mean, we came together to share our stories and to share our struggles. And also just listening to the guests that came and how they were able to engage with the different stories and the different themes of the book. For me, it also had it was a moment of deep reflection and deep connection. When we had the evening with the authors, just listening to how they poured their hearts into this book, and also how we kind of found pieces of ourselves in our story, in the stories that we shared. So it just reaffirmed the importance of giving space to women's voices, the power of storytelling as a tool for change. And for me, it just kind of gave me that reinforcement that I need to continue writing and amplifying voices of women. And so it was just an amazing experience that filled me with, just pride and a renewed sense of who I am as a daughter, as a professional woman, as a woman advocate, as a leader, and now with the new title as an author. So it was just an amazing experience for me.
Well, thank you, Njeri. It was wonderful for me. I just want to say, Njeri, describe what you had on that Saturday that that went across your it wasn't a hat, but describe it. It was just beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's a headgear worn by one of the tribes in Kenya. And I come from Kenya, and there are 42 tribes, and each tribe has its own distinct cultural wear. So what I was wearing was from the Maasai tribe, who are nomadists. So they travel from one place to the other. And so that was a headgear that is worn during special occasions, during weddings. The necklace, too, is part of that. In fact, you even wear more necklaces. I think I just had one, but it's supposed to kind of fill your neck with the round beaded necklaces. And so it's very colorful, very, loud, again, which is part of that culture. And so I wanted to honor my motherland by wearing that, those pieces of jewelry.
Oh, it was absolutely beautiful. It was stunning. And thank you for sharing that. See, every time I talk to you all, I learn a whole lot more. And Miss Lowe, you and your beautiful family, I remember hugging your daughters. They just blessed me. And meeting your husband, thank you, thank you, thank you. What did your kids say about the event? If it was nice, I hope they weren't too bored. And then what did you experience at that evening and Saturday?
Yeah, it was a weekend, we would say, like, if I want to put it like this, it was a getaway to also, like the 911, but then with an agenda. It's a deep reflection of what the power of prayer can do. What we put in prayer, what we ask for, And then when we come back to say thank you, how that is bountiful. So it was a moment for me to, acknowledge whatever we write and prophesy and say to ourselves, even how we prophesy to ourselves, our prayers are desired, that our God who's up there hears us. I'll say this in our mother tongue, then I'll translate, because this was something or a statement my grandmother used to share a lot, my maternal grandmother. She said, Jiga, meaning our God is not deaf. Go to him and say what you have to say. Be intentional. So coming from that part, it was a filling weekend, connecting with others. And then, like as I said, the power of storytelling, I was soaking in, there was reassurance, re-empowering, readjusting, regrouping. At times we think, I'm the only one over here with all this. I have so many other things that I'm at that. If anybody came and asked, or if they knew, they would just take off. But you get to a group of women who are choosing, because it's a choice, to be vulnerable and share part of their journey, because that's not only their whole. Then it's reassuring to yourself and saying, you know what? All I can say is thank you, because what have I gained from that experience? So it was a moment that I wish that we can repeat again or write another book. I've been hoping that we're going to write many more books. I'm here to advocate for more books, because I know I can talk more than health. I can talk about colorism. I can talk about any other thing that I'm passionate about. So I'm here to just say, if that is an opportunity, I would jump on it with my two hands and my two legs. So thank you again, Dr. Hill, and thank you again, Njeri, for being even kind, because I started off with resources in our community. At times we think of people have to give you financial. It doesn't have to be financial. That was a resource Njeri shared with many other women that were in that group. We had the choice to be part of it or not. I jumped on it because it was my time. It wasn't somebody, but somebody else learned that if I remain in platforms where I can still learn from them, resources are all around us, because at times our learning comes in different ways. That was a prayer answered through Njeri's link. So thank you again, Njeri Clement.
Oh, thank you, my dear.
Well, I don't know who wants to share, but you all have a book launch coming up in September. So I want you to please share that right now. And we will have to go. We're getting down to the last couple seconds. So anybody just take it away about your announcement for Minnesota.
I got it. So September 20th at the Stearns History Museum in St. Cloud, Minnesota, from 5 to 8 p.m. We will have a red carpet event featuring the 3 Minnesota contributors to Voices of Women Unleashed in Justice. Dr. Hill will be joining us at this book launch in Minnesota, and some of the other writers may be there as well. We are extremely excited. Everyone is invited. There'll be books for sale there. Meet the authors and get your book autographed.
Well, I don't want to end without saying we are so grateful for Coach Crystal. She is the publisher of the book. It was many of her great ideas that, because I was in a fog through most of this thing, and she really jumped in and helped us. She did a great job with designing the cover and editing and putting that book together and nudging all of us to get our stuff in. So thank you to Coach Crystal for the piece that she has done, which was huge, and she's been listening tonight. So all of you want to say thank you to Coach Crystal?
Thank you, Coach Crystal.
Thank you, Coach Crystal.
We heard that. All right. Well, thank you again. This is Shades and Justice Podcast. We had the incredible authors from Voices of Women Unleashed in Justice on our show tonight. We call them the Minnesota authors, and we are super excited. We get to go to Minnesota. We're taking this show on the road. So we will be in Minnesota to celebrate with those authors on September the 20th. So until next time, this is Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades in Justice Podcast and Radio. You can always catch me at www.drevelynhill.net. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for being at our show on tonight. This is Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades in Justice Podcast. Another great evening to be alive. Hey, this is Positive Power Christian Radio. Dr. Evelyn Hill with Shades in Justice Podcast. Hey, see you next time. You can meet me every Wednesday at 8:30 Central Standard Time or 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, right here at Positive Power Christian Radio. See you next time. Bye.
You are listening to Njeri Clement Live Worldwide Podcast.